So without any further ado, Bekele, over to you, please.
Okay, thank you, Michael, for allowing me to present. Good morning, colleagues, everybody, and thank you for coming to attend my seminar presentation. I'm going to speak about sustainable intensification. The title of my presentation is the Sustainable Intensification Concept in Agricultural Research, Normative versus Farmers' Perspectives. Okay, yeah. So I'm going to follow the following sequence in my presentation. First, I'll briefly introduce some historical background about sustainable intensification concept, and then I'll briefly describe the concept of sustainable intensification. And after that, I'll have some review of empirical studies regarding technology evaluation within the lens of sustainable intensification. After that, I'll present sustainable intensification from farmers' perspective based on two studies that we conducted in West Africa. Thereafter, I will have some concluding remarks, and finally, I'll have some statements on my regarding my research plan. Since the second half of the 20th century, the global strategy for agricultural development has shifted from a kind of using more land and a little capital to a kind of system of using more capital and more scientific techniques that we call just intensification. The shift from extensification to intensification is because of increasing challenges to meet the food demand, particularly in developing countries. On the one hand, population is growing fast in several regions, particularly in Africa, leading to accelerated food requirement. On the other hand, farmlands are becoming scarcer over time. Maybe just if we see this graph, we can see that agricultural land per capita has been declining everywhere in the world. However, the rate of decline is very high in Africa. In Africa, the per capita land, the agricultural land has declined from over 3.5 hectares per person in 1960s to less than 1 hectare per person in 2018. Moreover, farmers' traditional methods of cultivation couldn't increase yield as desired. So this situation has resulted in chronic hunger and malnutrition in many developing countries, mostly in Africa. This has necessitated intensification strategies. Actually, intensification aims to produce higher output per unit of resources, particularly the scarce ones, than the traditional way. It entails increasing input use, such as fertilizers, water, and chemicals, or increasing cropping intensity, for example, growing 2 or more crops per year, or changing land use from low value crops, or just using a combination of these techniques. A good example, as you also know, is that of Green Revolution strategy that was mainly implemented in Asia and Latin America. However, intensification may have adverse effects as it was observed during the Green Revolution era. Specifically, it resulted in depletion of groundwater, pollution of rivers and the ecosystem due to intensive use of agrochemicals, degradation or salination of farmlands because of surface irrigation, reduce crop biodiversity because of extreme focus on some staple crops such as rice and maize and wheat. It has also brought about higher income disparity. Such adverse effects of the Green Revolution intervention have led to the concept of sustainable intensification. In fact, the concept of sustainable intensification emerged in the late 1980s to correct for the limitations of the Green Revolution. Sustainable intensification is a multidimensional concept. It has multidimensional outcomes, including social dimension, social outcomes manifested by, for example, social justice, equity, and cooperation. Ecological outcomes manifested by natural resource conservation, nutrient recycling, and optimal use of external inputs. And it is also manifested by economic outcomes, such as better human well-being, better profitability of crop and livestock enterprises, better resource use efficiency or cost effectiveness, and this. So there are several actually of this kind of frameworks, conceptual frameworks developed in the past 2 or 3 decades to capture the analysis of sustainable intensification. The most recent framework to analyze sustainable intensification has been developed by Musumba and colleagues within Africa Rising program. According to this framework, sustainable intensification has 5 dimensions, 5 domains, including productivity, economic, environment, human, and social dimensions. Each of these domains has a list of indicators or metrics. The validity of each of the indicators depends upon local context. That means researchers can use different indicators or combinations of indicators depending upon the local context. The common thought here is that assessment of sustainable intensification should be sorry, I was muted for some time. I don't know. Just can you hear me, Michael? Maybe.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, I was muted for some time. Okay, so the common thought is that assessment of sustainable intensification should be multidimensional. To realize sustainable intensification, land, soil, and water should be managed properly. External inputs such as fertilizer and improved seeds should be used efficiently and optimally. Farming areas should retain sufficient agrobiodiversity, and the institutional and policy environment should enable farmers to use economic opportunities through better market access and information, while enhancing equity at different scales, including intra-household, inter-household, and regional scales. So this was that, and then it was actually this concept was suggested to be included in the research designs as far as since the late 1980s. For instance, Linam and Hertz strongly suggested that the CGR would incorporate the sustainability concept into its research process. Not changing, I don't know why. Okay, however, although the sustainable intensification concept started in the late 1980s, it was only the beginning of the last decade that SI began to receive widespread attention in the CGR and beyond. For example, this figure shows the number of publications on sustainable intensification. As you can see, the number of the publication on sustainable intensification on reputable journals was very small in the 1990s at the beginning, and gradually it has increased in actually a geometric rate. In the last decades, the attention is very high, and then the number of publications has increased very much. So this shows, the attention is increasing on sustainable intensification. Actually, in the last decade, SI-oriented projects were initiated in the CGR, including, for example, Africa Rising, led by IITA and ILRI, Simlesa, led by CIMI. These research initiatives promoted the sustainable intensification concept and the evaluation of interventions from multiple dimensions. For instance, the Africa Rising program has adopted the CF framework, as I presented earlier, and the researchers have been encouraged to follow this approach in their research designs. However, limited studies have followed the criteria of the multidimensional assessment which the SI concept entails. In fact, most of the studies focused on one or two dimensions, mainly productivity and economics, while ignoring others. For instance, a recent study by Reich and colleagues showed that long distance would remain to integrate the SI concept into the global research system. They reviewed more than 200 articles on sustainable intensification, and they found that actually they assessed different studies that considered large number of sustainable intensification practices, including those related to soil health and those related to diversification, such as agroforestry, crop livestock integration, intercropping, compost or manure use, conservation agriculture, mulching, and others. So the results show that actually sustainable intensification practices have very positive impacts on yield of main crops. Whether they are from soil health or diversification, they have very good impact in many parts of the world. Particularly, most of these studies were conducted in Africa. In terms of economic indicators, also they have very good impact. They have a very good impact in most parts of the world, particularly Africa. We have tried to also review some studies within Africa Rising funding. So these studies in general, when we see, they have covered all of the sustainable intensification domains. However, most of them focused on the productivity and economic aspects of sustainability, while leaving others. And most of them also didn't cover all of the dimensions, and they didn't also do some trade-offs. between the sustainability outcomes. However, a few studies considered multiple indicators covering multiple SI domains. For instance, SNAP and other colleagues considered agronomic practices in which legumes are integrated into maize production. They evaluated new maize legume integration options, namely PGMP maize intercrop, double up legume maize rotation against two maize soil cropping controls. They used different indicators covering all of the sustainable intensification domains as stipulated by Musumba and colleagues. They presented the results using a radar diagram covering all of the dimensions. As you can see, no single treatment is superior over others in terms of all of the indicators. For example, the double up legume is superior over others in terms of returns to nitrogen fertilizer, but it's not that much superior in terms of maize yield. Similarly, the maize, the soil maize with inorganic fertilizer is superior over others in terms of maize yield, but it's not as such good in terms of indicators of soil health. So this shows that there are trade-offs between different outcomes, and these, including all of the indicators, is important to have a broader picture about the technology. Similarly, Abdulrahman evaluated different groundnut spacing against the farmer's practice. They compared 3 new levels of planting densities against the farmer's practice. They used indicators from different SI domains, and similarly they presented, the results using this spider diagram. And as you see, actually here, in contrast to the previous one, there is little trade-off. Anyway, just we can see a broader picture about that technology. They also tried to bring all the indicators into a single indicator in the sustainability index using a certain formula. I will not go into it, and try to rank the treatments according to this sustainability index. To summarize on this, the reviewed studies showed that SI interventions enhance productivity and income of smallholder farmers, improve soil health, and improve human well-being. However, most of these studies focused on 1 or 2 SI indicators at a time. A few studies analyzed the existence of trade-offs between SI options. Now the question is that, what do the farmers say about sustainable intensification? Up to now, I tried to show you the studies that which are based on normative or scientific frameworks. Most of these studies were based on on-farm experiments, and these on-farm experiments participate. Sometimes they participate also farmers, but not many. But we have to ask that how do the farmers see our concept of sustainable intensification? As we see it scientifically, or do they have some different versions? The question here is just, are they interested in practicing sustainable intensification? This is an important question because widespread technology adoption entails a full understanding of farmers' interests and their willingness to invest in the technologies. Scientific soundness is important, but at the end of the day, it's the farmers who decide on which of the technology they take and which of the technology they drop. So to address this question, we conducted 2 studies, one in Ghana and the other in Mali, to assess farmers' preferences regarding SI technologies. We considered 2 staple cereals, maize and sorghum, in evaluating farmers' technology preferences. The findings of one of the studies is already published, and that of the other is in the process. The studies were conducted in northern Ghana, in 3 regions of northern Ghana, and 3 districts of southern Mali. We used a survey, household survey, focus group discussion, and expert consultations to collect the data. Our research followed a discrete choice experiment research design. We covered 700 households in Ghana and 600 households in Mali. We considered 7 attributes, different attributes in Ghana, and 6 different attributes in Mali. These attributes cover different sustainable intensification domains, specifically productivity, economic, environment, and human domains. The social domain was indirectly captured through disaggregated analysis based on gender in Ghana and based on social network in Mali. We used a choice card to elicit farmers' preferences. In the choice cards, we presented them two options: option A, hypothetical options, option A and option B, and each of the options have different attribute levels, which the farmers should consider, and the attribute levels were randomly allocated to each of them. So farmers were requested to choose between the 2 options, and actually they could also opt out in favor of their current cropping practices. We used different econometric models, including the basic multinomial logic, mixed logic. Also, we used also mixed logic controlling for attribute non-attendance. As a robustness check, also we used the latent class model. So this is the result that we found in Ghana and Mali. As you can see, the alternative specific constant is negative and highly significant, which indicates that farmers are interested in changing their current practices in favor of a more sustainable maize and sorghum production practices. Most of the attributes that we considered were highly significant, and they are with the expected signs. However, farmers are actually different, as indicated in the standard deviations. There is heterogeneity between the farmers with respect to most of the attributes. And also the results in both countries are qualitatively similar, except in some cases, in the case of a couple of attributes. For example, just in terms of risk, the results are different. In Ghana, farmers are risk averse. That means they are interested in technologies that reduce the risk of crop failure. This could be maybe drought-tolerant varieties, or maybe some moisture conservation practice and those things. they are interested in that. Where there isn't the same inclination is there, but it's not significant. Perhaps the difference may be because of the differences in the crops that we considered in Ghana and Mali. In Ghana, we considered maize, which is relatively susceptible to moisture stress, whereas in Mali we consider sorghum, which is relatively more tolerant to moisture stress, low moisture stress drought. So that's maybe this may make Mali farmers to, as such, not that much sensitive to risk. In terms of labor, also there are some differences, although in both cases, farmers are interested in labor-saving technologies. In Mali, they are serious about it, whereas in Ghana, not as such. So this may show some differences in terms of labor constraint between the two countries. We did some disaggregation with respect to male and female. We wanted to know whether male and female have some different preferences in terms of technologies. In general, we see that they are interested in both of cases. They are interested to change the current practices in favor of a more sustainable one, and they are also, considering most of the attributes we considered in our model. But the difference here is that with respect to a couple of attributes. One is male-head householders are interested in both maize and legume yield in the maize-legume integration, whereas female-head householders are interested in maize yield, but not as such in the legume yield. Maybe female householders, head householders are interested to use the legumes for other purposes. For example, they may want to use them as a cover crop to improve the soil health, or maybe for the livestock. The second one is there is also some differences in terms of soil fertility attributes. In the case of male-head householders, they are interested in both in the technologies that either increase soil fertility or maintain it, whereas female-head householders are interested mainly on the technologies that increase soil fertility, but they are neutral to the other. Maybe because this may be because of the differences in the quality of land they cultivate. Just women cultivate less quality land, and improving the soil fertility is an imperative than maintaining it. We also did some disaggregated analysis with respect to regions. Actually, these regions capture also agroecological differences. We see differences in most of the cases. In all of the regions, farmers are interested in changing the current practices in favor of a more sustainable one. But the difference is with respect to, again, maize yield and legume yield. In terms of legume yield, in terms of legume yield, farmers in Upper West and Upper East are interested in both legume yield and maize yield, while those in northern region are interested in maize yield. Maybe they want to use the legumes as a cover crop in the northern region. In terms of soil fertility attribute, also farmers in the northern region and the Upper West region are interested in both in technologies that either increase or maintain soil fertility, whereas in that of Upper East region are interested in technologies that increase soil fertility. Maybe this could be because of the low soil fertility level in Upper East region, so they may be highly interested in those improving soil fertility. Okay, So the other one is there is also a difference in labor requirement reactions with respect to the three regions. In Mali, we did disaggregated analysis with respect to social network. There are similarities in terms of the preferences in most of the cases, but in terms of risk and in terms of soil fertility, there are some differences, as you can see. We did also disaggregation with respect to agroecology in Mali. Our study, our locations cover Sudan savanna and the Guinea savanna. We disaggregated our analysis with respect to those agroecological zones. In general, in both of the agroecologies, farmers are interested in changing the current practice into a more sustainable one, but there are some differences with respect to risk. The farmers in Sudan savanna are more risk averse. They are interested in technologies that reduce risk of crop failure. This could be because Sudan savanna is relatively drier and maybe it encounters more shocks than that of Guinea savanna, and this result may shows those differences between the agroecologies. In terms of labor difference, labor requirements, there are also some differences. Farmers in Guinea savanna are more interested in labor saving technologies. Actually, in that of Guinea Sudan savanna are also the same, but they are not that much strict about it. It means that even if the technology is labor consuming, they can go for it as far as the technology is good in terms of other attributes. So now to conclude, from these two different perspectives, what we can learn is that the lessons from the studies based on the scientific frameworks are that SI practices have positive effects on productivity, economic returns, and other indicators. However, most of the studies are not comprehensive. Dominantly, they consider productivity and economic domains of sustainable intensification. There are limited considerations of environmental and other indicators. Most of them didn't consider trade-offs between SI outcomes. There is also lack of long-term study to reveal long-term outcomes of sustainable intensification. As you know, some of the sustainable intensification outcomes takes some time, longer time to reveal themselves, and the studies should capture those things. And a short-term planned study may not capture long-term ones, particularly that which related to the environmental indicators. The lessons from the studies on farmers' preferences are that farmers' preferences are aligned with the domains of sustainable intensification as conceptualized in the SIAP. However, farmers are not homogeneous in preferences, and not all attributes are equally desirable among them. So SI is not just a fact within the academic and the research circles, but it's something that farmers are interested in, which require policy attention. It's useful to adopt multidimensional assessment frameworks to identify best fitting SI practices in lieu of the conventional technology assessment approach, which emphasizes a single attribute at a time. To address the current gaps in the SI assessment, mainstreaming SI in the CGIAR centers will be useful. Mainstreaming allows an institutionalized coordination of studies on SI to address multidimensional issues and investigate possible trade-offs between the SI indicators. Actually, the current research strategy of one CGIAR is conducive to do that. there are 5 impact areas of the one CGR current research strategy. This can be easily aligned with sustainable intensification domains. An important issue is that how to make this operational at higher level, or how to cascade this alignment to down to the specific research level. This is an important issue, and maybe just operational guidelines and those things should be worked upon in order to implement these things. Otherwise, just for example, these impact areas are there, but just if they are not connected in a systematic way, and maybe researchers are designed to address all of them, then this may be have some little impacts on sustainable issues. So having said this, let me say a few statements regarding my research plan. IITA Africa Rising has been developing and promoting sustainable intensification technology since 2012. These are varieties of technologies actually out there. These technologies are expected to improve the well-being of smallholder farmers in the intervention areas and beyond. However, impact studies have not been conducted, partially because it was necessary to wait until visible impacts will happen. In-the-line surveys have been conducted recently in some project countries such as Ghana and Malawi, while they are planned in the remaining countries. Therefore, it's high time to plan for ex-post impact studies. We have already planned 3 cross-country or cross-regional studies in this year. These studies cover Ghana and Malawi, while similar studies will be conducted in Tanzania, Mali, and Zambia once data collection are completed in these countries. In addition to ex-post impact studies, I will participate in studies related to the new One CGR initiative, particularly the Sustainable Intensification of Mixed Farming System initiative. We have already planned to establish the baseline for SIMF initiative in 2022 or early 2023. This will be followed by other studies such as ex-ante modeling and analysis of policy scenarios during the first cycle of the initiative. So this is what I have. Let me end my presentation with some acknowledgements. My first acknowledgement, thanks just goes to my Africa Rising program managers, Gard and Fred. Thank you so much for your support and guidance. I would like to thank also IITA management, Michael, Robert, Lillian, and Hakim for the encouragements that they give me and the support whenever I need it. I'm also grateful to my Africa Rising colleagues, namely Julius, Nuruddin, Gundula, Felix, Carlo, and others for sharing their experiences and knowledge with me. I've learned a lot from them. I'm also thankful to our socio-economics team members, including Tahiru, Aragash, Farah, and others for the support that they give me just whenever I need it. Finally, lastly but not least, I would like to thank IITA Ghana national staff, both admin team, including Summit, Portia, Afwa, and others, and research associates, Benedict, Kipo, Dokruku, and others, and all others, other colleagues who directly and indirectly supported my work in the past 3 years. Thank you so much. Thank you for your attention. This is just what I have. Thank you.
Okay, Bekele, thank you very much indeed for your presentation. I hope you can hear a round of virtual applause. So this now is open for questions. We can have questions. You put your hand up or put something into the chat. So questions, please. Any questions? Okay, Bekele,
Yes.
let me start, okay? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear.
Let me start with these sustainable intensification indicators and show that you, and definitely Irmgard, will not be surprised by my question, which is to do with the timescale. I know you said that there's been some work on trade-offs and so forth, but there's an obvious difference in timescale between some of these indicators like profitability. Maybe you can measure that within a year or so, but things like effects on soil fertility, you know, they may take much longer to actually measure, you know, something in terms of impact. So how do you factor that sort of thing in, and how does that really relate in terms of what the farmers are preferring? I mean, yeah, how do they also weigh these short-term and long-term effects?
Yeah, thank you for your question. Yes, you know, the trade-offs cannot be visible easily. Sometimes, you know, some outcomes may take longer time, particularly those related to the environment, and some can be easily visible. For example, the productivity and those things can be easily visible. So within short time. Actually, that's just what I was suggesting. Actually, longer term studies are also required, and they should be systematically integrated with the within short term and studies. You know, I am, you know, suggesting some institutionalization of SI because of this type of complications. This type of complications of coordinating long-term studies with short-term studies requires some sort of a very good coordinated design at the beginning. For example, maybe some person may design a short-term study which can be easily used, and some studies may also take longer time. And the short-term studies can be taken as a monitoring study for the longer time, and they can be used as an input. So this kind of things require some sort of a very good coordination, research coordination from the beginning. It can't come, you know, if we treat individual studies at a time. So that is just what I suggest, and you know, institutional or mainstreaming these kind of things in IITA or other CGR centers is very much important to actually capture what sustainable intensification requires.
Let me just follow up before I bring in Abush. Let me just follow up, Bekele. Do you see any signs in the work plans for the new initiatives that what you're suggesting is going to happen?
No, actually, just we haven't yet planned, but it should be like that. You know, it's not only within the one initiative. Actually, it should be done. It should be done within each of the CGR, and so that you know, the coordination should happen also between across the initiatives. For example, the sustainable intensification may plan like that. It may also cross-plan with the excellence in agronomy, and those things should happen together. Unless and otherwise, we do it and such an institutionalization or mainstreaming at higher level, the treatment of each initiative may not bring a big difference. Because, you know, we assume also that these initiatives cross-fertilize each other. They can be used, they can use the inputs of one another, and those things should happen at higher level.
Okay, thanks. So, yes, Baby Abush, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you, Bekele, for your nice presentation. And I just would like to know the types of legumes that you that have been incorporated into the cropping system, and also would like to know the role of soybean in that cropping system in northern Ghana, because I know that there has been a lot of effort to promote soybean in Ghana, and also what is the nature of your partnership with the National Soybean Program in Tamale, and also, are you also planning to partner with us with the soybean program of IITA in making sure good varieties and soybean varieties will be adopted in those agroecologies in the northern Ghana part of your intervention? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, actually, just in the first studies that I reviewed in Africa, the studies are very many in number. Actually, they consider different legumes, including that of Ghana, include also soybean. Soybean was also included, and the cowpea there, and groundnut. These are the three important legumes in northern Ghana, as you know. So these are there. The studies covered those things, the studies that I reviewed. With respect to the farmers' preferences, we didn't specifically mention a certain legume, but you know, we indicated to them that any legume can be there, because the purpose of integrating legume is to improve soil fertility, and also actually there are different dimensions to it. They had in mind these three important legumes, particularly the groundnuts, the soybean, and the cowpea, in their mind when they were assessing the preferences. So this is just what we did. Regarding the cooperation, actually, yes, cooperation is very much important. Up to now, we have been working with SARI, SARI, Savannah Agricultural Research Institute in northern Ghana, with respect to trials. SARI was part of Africanizing team, and also we have been conducting also separate studies within IITA and others. So in the future, yes, cooperation is very much important. That's just what is envisaged in the future, as well as one CGR is also interested to bring up local research institutes, and country teams should include the local partners as well. That's just what I'm expecting in the future. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions, please? Okay, I'm not seeing any more hands. No, okay. So we will leave it there. Bekele, thank you very much. We will start the next phase, which is the panel discussion after a 5-minute break. So the panel can still remain on the link, please. And everyone else, thank you for your participation, and have a good weekend. Thanks.
Thank you so much.